Okay, it's a couple of minutes after 12 o'clock, so let's get started with our latest free webinar of the series. I think this might be number 14 or 15 of the free webinars, and it's our penultimate one. We've got another one tomorrow, which focuses on COVID circles of control. So this is resilience in a VUCA world, and it will centre around personal resilience. We'll also do a little bit about building team resilience as well during this busy time. So those of you that have already attended any of our sessions will know that it's a 30-minute session, so it's a fairly quick session. We don't go into loads and loads of detail, but we've got loads of online material that we can deliver within organisations. So please give me a shout afterwards if you want to talk about any leadership or organisational development needs. We've managed to convert an awful lot onto digital platforms. The content will be led by myself, although we do want you to interact, and I will be asking people if they can to use the chat functionality. And there'll be a few questions that I'll throw out, and we'll use the interactive whiteboard as well to make sure that we chart everything. Hopefully everybody's microphone apart from mine's on mute. You can take your video off if you want, or you can keep your video on. Some people have, some people haven't. It's absolutely fine, not a problem. And there'll be a short feedback questionnaire at the end. So if you can just have your phones ready on camera, you'll be able to do that. It should take about a minute, and it'd be really, really useful to get any feedback from everybody on the session. So a little bit more about me. Again, I've changed my my image for this one. So this is a photo of me delivering a leadership development session at Yorkshire Ambulance Service. So some of the rooms we've used there have been very, very interesting. Some of the medical bits on there. But yeah, I would say that I'm definitely missing some of those weird and wonderful places that I do facilitating, and my kitchen table is not quite the same. Those of you that don't know, I'm a facilitator here at ANDS Partnership, and I deliver coaching sessions, I deliver team sessions, deliver leadership sessions, as well as mental health. So I'm a mental health first aid instructor as well. So let's move on to the main part of the session. So VUCA is something that has been used an awful lot, and is probably even more apt in this current situation than it has ever been before. This was an acronym that was coined by the American military after the end of the Cold War, to try and pinpoint what the new world was going to look like. What's the new normal? So they came up with VUCA. Some of you will know what it stands for already, I'm pretty sure, but just to go through. So you've got volatile. So this is all about speed, rate, and rapidity of change. Then there's the uncertain bit. So just being unclear about the here and now, the impact, the effect, what kind of consequences they're going to be. And then the C is complex. In this modern world, there are so many different decision factors. It's just a complex world. Change now is not just about obviously one piece of change going on in an organisation. It is multiple changes. They could impact each other or be standalone and get really, really complex and ambiguous. So just a lack of clarity and not having a right answer, which I'm sure during the lockdown of COVID-19, that's certainly been apparent in many organisations. So there is something called VUCA Prime, which has been created and designed to say, okay, well, we know that the world is now volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. How do we actually get through that? So this is the VUCA Prime acronym. So this is about having a vision, This is about so some situational awareness and having some foresight being really, really key. Having and feeling comfortable with the uncomfortable. I quite like that phrase. So the just having an understanding is really, really key. Trying to get as clear as possible, so discovering the boundaries. So that lack of clarity with the ambiguous. Well, what can you control? What can you do to make the world much more clearer? And then being agile, and I hear the word agile an awful lot going out and delivering sessions in different organisations. But deciding on a course of action, doing it fairly quickly, rapidly, and being ready for that next change course. Now, there's loads of reading that you can do on VUCA and VUCA Prime outside of here, but I think what we have to say is the world of work is constantly changing. And we need to be prepared for that, and it does have an impact on people's well-being, and part of that well-being is around their personal resilience, and that's what I really want to focus on today. So what I'd like to do is start with, we've identified what is VUCA, but what about what is resilience? We throw it around quite a bit, but what does that really mean? So what I'd like to do is if people, what does the word resilience mean to you, especially around the working environment? So if we can get the whiteboard up, and if people can just share in chat what resilience means to them, we can get a few words. And just to get started, I've been able to recover quickly, I would say, is a part of that. Learning and adapting. Thanks, Joe. So learning and adapting. Finding a positive way through difficult situations. Learning from challenges and bouncing forward, like it. Being able to stay positive. The ability to bounce back and learn. We've got Stephen with a quote around, but it ain't how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much can you take and keep moving forward? That's how winning is done. Nice. Maintaining motivation when times are tough. Opportunity rather than fear of failure. Growth mindset. Being out of your comfort zone. Asking yourself, what will I do to help, or what will I do help or harm me? Fail better. Well, that was something from Samuel Beckett, apparently. Fail better. Okay, fantastic, and thanks for the whiteboard. Let's get we'll get back to my slides. So I think you've identified some great terms when it comes to resilience. One of the definitions that I got, being able to adapt and bounce back when something difficult happens in our lives, is a quote that I've taken, which I really like. Bounce back ability. I do quite like that word, which was first coined by I think a football manager, actually, Ian Dowie, in an interview. He talked about bounce back ability. But I do think that's really, really apt when it comes to defining resilience. So how resilient are you then? Really, really interesting, actually, this. You can get online and you can look at free surveys, questionnaires when it comes to resilience. And there's also some really, really useful paid for resilience surveys and questionnaires. 12 questions that I'm going to ask you today, and what I would normally do in a session like this is get you to really reflect on these questions and give a score 1 to 5, 1 being low and high being totally agree with these statements. So in a difficult spot, I turn at once to what can be done to put things right. So it's kind of just getting you to reflect, and outside of this, you'll be able to get a copy of this recording. I can actually give you a copy of the questions as well if people want to contact me directly. I influence where I can rather than worrying about what I can't influence. I don't take criticism personally. Generally manage to keep things in perspective. I am calm in a crisis. I'm good at finding solutions to problems. I wouldn't describe myself as an anxious person. I tend to avoid conflict. I try to control events rather than being a victim of circumstances. I trust my intuition. I manage my stress levels well. I feel confident and secure in my position. If you actually went through that and sort of scored yourself between 1 and 5, there are some definitions of where you would sit in terms of your own personal resilience lessons, which again I can share with you after this. So they're the kind of things that you can ask yourself when it comes to, well, how resilient actually am I when it comes down to it. So why is resilience so important? So I would say that there's a whole host of different reasons why resilience is so important. So lead to much better well-being if you're a much more resilient person. Your physical health's actually increased as well. So if you think about illnesses, getting colds, coughs, etc., that can have lack of resilience can have an impact on that. Potentially lower absence and presenteeism at work. Being calm under pressure if you've got higher resilience, just generally being a happier person. And also, actually, if you're more resilient, you can actually become more innovative because you're not scared. You can take more risks when it comes to that. You tend to be a little bit more social as well if you've got higher levels of resilience. Become much more flexible. I think this is really key, obviously key in this world that we're experiencing now and also out there in the new normal. There's that flexibility and adaptability to change is really, really key. And just become a more confident person. So we do a lot of work on personal brands for personal development and talent development. And resilience is one of the key things that we will ask people to focus on. There's different types of resilience. Again, some of you will have already seen this, I'm sure. There's the inherent resilience that you're born with. There's adaptive resilience, and this comes from experience. So we know that certainly people starting off in their early career, maybe fresh out of university or apprentice or even out of school, resilience levels can be quite low. They might have that inherent resilience. But actually they've not done the learning, they've not been through it, they've not experienced these kind of issues and got themselves through it, and that's where adaptive resilience will come in. So for millennials and people even younger than that, it's really important to focus on their resilience and help them actually build their resilience. And then there's the learned resilience, and that's something that I certainly want to focus on in this. How do we learn to actually build resilience? And there are different ways. It's not easy. It's not as easy as these bullets that I'm going to introduce, but actually it's worth sort of getting out your comfort zone and practicing some of these resilience techniques. So how do we build resilience? So for me, there's 5 factors just on here. There's a lot more to this, but just on this short webinar, I want to focus on increasing your emotional intelligence. Being able to focus your mind, I think, is really key. Learning optimism. So more optimistic people rather than pessimistic people, they have a much better well-being. Pessimism can actually lead to depression, higher stress, etc. So actually learning how to be an optimistic person, having that positive, that growth mindset that somebody talked about earlier is really, really key. Having a support network you can call on, and I mean a diverse support network there that you can speak to when you need to. is really, really key. And being able to focus on what you can control. And we'll look at that a lot more in the webinar tomorrow when we look at the circles of control. But this is really, really key to help you build your personal resilience. Just want to focus a little bit on each one of those then now. So emotional intelligence for me is really, really key to just developing and thriving in a work environment anyway, whether you're a leader, operator, whatever it might be. So this is a really simple model. A lot of you may well have seen this, but there's pretty much 4 elements. Daniel Goleman, this model comes from, who's probably the best known author when it comes to emotional intelligence. And he talks about having the ability to be self-aware. So who am I? Why am I going through these moods, emotions, drives? What's actually impacting me? And also then the self-management side. Okay, so I've identified that, but having the ability actually to think, well, how do I manage that situation? And then if you look on the right-hand side, you've got that social awareness of actually recognizing, well, why are other people being like that? Why are their emotions, their behaviors, etc., why are they reacting like this? And it's really, really key when it comes to emotional intelligence to be able to recognize yourself, but others as well. And then that leads to the 4th one, which is the sort of social skill side of things. So yes, you've got that ability to recognize why people are having these feelings or emotions, but it's then about, so what do you do about that? So in terms of relationship building, finding common ground, building rapport, really, really key to this. And emotional intelligence and having that goes hand in hand with actually building resilience, because the more emotionally intelligent you are, you're understanding why people are going through this and why you're going through certain situations can help you to build your resilience. Focusing on your mind is the second one that I wanted to put there. So the image shows that your body is present is your mind's. So one thing that I can tend to do actually is I can ruminate on past events. So things that have bothered me in the past, maybe not quite gone as well as I'd liked, I've let them ruminate, and that can have a huge impact on your resilience and then therefore your well-being. So it's about finding strategies to keep you in the present, not worrying or ruminating on the past, and also not worrying too much about the future as well, because that can have a huge impact on your resilience. Oh no, what's going to happen? There can be a real catastrophizing side to this as well. What can you do to stay in the present? Well, there's all kinds of things that are out there. I never thought I'd get into mindfulness techniques, but I do. I do use mindfulness now as part of my day to help me stay in the present. There's breathing techniques, meditation techniques, anything that works for you really. We're all very, very different people, but if you can focus your mind on the present, that can have a huge impact on your resilience rather than being caught up in the past. Or actually focusing too much on the future, and you're not enjoying the present, which I think is really key and can affect your happiness. Learned optimism is something that I've been learning about an awful lot. So there's a book, people won't be able to 100% see this, but I'm actually reading it now, which is Learned Optimism, and it's by an author called Martin Seligman. Anybody that's interested in anything like this from a well-being point of view, I'd recommend it. I'm not on commission, by the way, but it is a really useful book. The subtitle there is How to Change Your Mind in Your Life. And I am picking up certain factors. But what it boils down to with Martin Seligman is that actually more optimistic people enjoy a better life. Actually, there's proof that more optimistic people live longer as well. So it must be great to get into that. It's not always easy if you're a pessimistic person to get in there. He talks about the 3 P's of learned optimism being permanence, pervasiveness, and personalization. So those that are optimistic will look at events when it comes to permanence in time. So, okay, this has happened, but this is just one event, it's very short time, right, let's get back to my life. It's not a permanent thing. Pervasiveness is about not letting that one event, that one setback actually hold you back and think, well, it makes me a really bad person. So for example, if I deliver a really poor webinar, if I was experiencing low pervasiveness optimism, then I'd be saying I'm rubbish at webinars. But actually what I ought to be focusing on is actually, okay, well, this might not have gone well, but my other webinars have done in the past. I've had great feedback. So there's nothing to stop me having great webinars in the future. And the personalization side of things is about being able to think, well, actually, was that really down to me, that event? You know, being able to personalize it. So somebody with higher personalization optimism are going to be thinking that, well, actually, I didn't really get time to prepare for this, or I had other things that were on there, other situations. Might even say that other people got involved as well. So it's not to deflect everything and to blame other people, but it's about to think, well, what other factors were there to actually stop that? So it's about, for all these negative factors, this negative self-talk that can go off inside your head. What can you use this simple model, the 3 Ps, for that to get out of it? So that's a little bit of a whistle-stop tour on Learn Optimism. The support network sounds dead obvious, but actually, when it comes to it, how much do we really invest in our relationships and getting a support network around us? So important for resilience. And I think for me, this is both at work and at home. Different types of people for different types of support as well. So do you sometimes need someone that might give you a kick up the backside and be really, really honest? Do you sometimes need somebody to put their arm around you, if you like, and have some empathy with you? And have we got those different types of support networks? Remember, if you're seeking some support and you actually go for the wrong type of support network, it could actually make the situation even worse. Invest time in building your network. We always say that on our leadership programs is, you know, what can you do? You're not going to be able to have big relationships with every single person probably in your organization. So, you know, what do you do? Prioritize that. Are you actually investing the time? For me, that's a key part of leadership, is actually building your network as well. Make sure you support them when needed as well. So for me, trust is about that two-way thing. Actually, if you're just going to that person every time you need support, are they really going to trust you? And is it just one way? And don't forget to contact them when you need them the most. So when you do need someone the most, your resilience is a little bit lower, you're feeling stressed, under pressure. Actually, sometimes you don't want to call on people because you don't want to bother them, you're embarrassed or whatever. This is the time that you need to. So call on your support network when you need them the most. And the 5th one for me was around focusing on what you can control. One of the single biggest things, and this is why I'm doing a webinar tomorrow on COVID circles. I learned this years and years ago on my very first leadership program that I went through. And this has stayed with me ever since, the circles of control. Being able to just think to yourself, what can I control? What can I influence? And what's just a given? And I'm wasting my energy actually thinking about it is really, really key. Book on to the webinar if you've not already, and you can do that via our website. So a little bit now on team resilience. And again, you'll get a copy of this video anyway, but be an ally, not a critic of somebody. I think it's really key to help them and to keep them resilient. Remind them why you're all in it together. Empower people as much as possible, delegate, empower, and that really helps to build trust. Give regular constructive feedback. I think that's really, really key. Build feedback into your working day. Say thank you for a job well done, not just for the sake of it, but actually, how many times do we say thank you for somebody doing really, really well? That will help to build the resilience, the self-esteem, etc. Help them build a personal brand as well. Will be really, really key. What can you do to help them develop that? Be supportive, encourage mindfulness, regular breaks. I think for me, it's about being a role model, you know, in terms of that. What are you doing as a manager or a leader to help your team? Are they seeing you take regular breaks, or are they seeing you send emails at 1 o'clock in the morning? And I think that's really, really key. And build a culture of support as well. Your team, is there that culture there? It's not just about you, it's about everybody in the team being able to have conversations and to support each other. And is there that culture there? So what I'd like to do just before we end the session, I'd be really interested actually in what will your organisation need to focus on to thrive in this new normal. So post lockdown, what's going to happen? We're all back. Is it going to be a new normal? Are there going to be significant changes? And I guess one of the things will certainly be around people's resilience, both as an organisation and as individuals. So if we can just get the whiteboard back up, and it'd be brilliant to hear from you guys on through chat in terms of what you think your organisation or you personally need to do when we come out of this lockdown situation. So just from my point of view, I think it's about finding the positives from what we've needed, what we've had to do during the lockdown. And I think that goes into what Catherine's just put on there, embrace new ways of working. So I think we've all been forced to do various things, and some of it's not felt natural, but it's been really accelerated. Can we do it? So embrace the new ways of working. I need to be more present. Stop trying to juggle multiple things at the same time. I think it's a really key one. Create space for open conversations regularly based on trust. Like it. How prepared are people, I suppose, for this new normal? You know, how prepared are we for people to get into? People have been going through a totally different sort of regime and way of working. How easy is it going to be for people to get back? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but it's going to be quite interesting. Anything else from anybody before we move on? Okay, fantastic. Let's close the chat down, and we'll move on to the final part of the session. Thanks for that, everybody. Really interesting. So we've got some, for those of you that have been on our webinars before, I know you'll have seen this before, but we've got a bespoke program where we've got a framework actually in place for leading in this changing world. We can run this virtually via Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So this is around leading remote teams, leading in change, leading health and well-being. Please contact us for more information on that. We are running some of these sessions with different clients over the next few weeks. And I think what I really wanted to bring people's attention to as well is the Mental Health Aware. So we've got an accredited course by Mental Health First Aid England. I'll be delivering it on Tuesday the 5th of May. It's a 4-hour session. You get the full materials, course materials from that as well. Some really useful stuff from Mental Health First Aid England, and no obligation here, but we've got a lunch and learn session on 29th of April. Again, it's on our website under workshops and events, and that will just tell you a little bit more around what Mental Health Aware is and why it's so important actually for you and your organisation. Anybody that's not done already, please follow us on LinkedIn. We'd appreciate that. We will be sending out regular updates on any free webinars or any new products. Please get access our website if you've not done already, and I'd be delighted to speak to anybody actually. And you can contact us on hello@handpartnership.com or just give us a quick call. So they fly by, these webinars. We're at 12:30 already. We'd really appreciate your feedback on this webinar or any ideas around what we could do after this free webinar series finishes. What would be really important to you or your organisation. So if people can just open the camera on the phone, scan the QR code, literally it'll take you about a minute probably to complete the feedback, and really important to us. Thanks everybody for listening on this webinar. I hope everybody attends our final scheduled webinar tomorrow on COVID Circles of Control. Okay, thanks. We'll end the webinar now.